Hey everybody, we are back seeking the path, and I have on a special guest. This is Victor Young. He is out of Washington, and welcome. Do me a favor, let everybody know. Let's talk about you a little bit. First off, school, location, stuff like that. Let's go there.
Yeah, so obviously I'm Victor Young. I'm up in Bremerton, Washington. The name of my school is Shaolin Mixed Martial Arts. Um, as far as my start in the martial arts, I started with Kung Fu and Tai Chi back in '98, and then I met Mark Olson, who was a student under Guru Ron, and I believe it was the end of 2003. And I was with him until he closed his school in 2010, and I got an instructorship under him.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started. Let's see, I was training privately, also still teaching Kung Fu and Tai Chi, and also teaching at the Y Tai Chi. And then a few years after that, I started also training at MKG Seattle under Guru Andy Wilson, who was under Guru Rick Fay. And actually, I became the enrollment director slash assistant operations there. So I was also working there. And then I believe in 2015 is when I went down to the International Mars Camp. But actually, before that, I went to a few seminars with you at Mark Olson's school. I think 3 or 4. And then so in 2015, I was actually in conversation with Sifu Mark Olson. He had just started. He opened his second school. He shut down for a little bit and opened his second school. And I was kind of talking to him, and he was, he kept on referencing you, and I knew who you were, obviously, and I had your videos. Who obviously Guru Larry's in, and a lot of other people. And I just decided that I kind of made it a goal of mine to go down to the International Mars Camp and then start going to the different seminars that you had available so that I could get an instructorship through you.
Yeah.
And then
if anybody's wondering who Mark is, if you look at my book, he's in the book with me. He's all over the book with me. But Mark trained with me. He was with me like forever. I mean, night and day. The guy almost lived at my house, and then he ended up moving back to Washington. That's when he opened the school, got with you guys. So yeah, he was awesome. And everybody's developed like yourself is just quality, really good people. So all right, so you got your start in Shaolin.
Yes, sir.
Was that here in the States? Because you lived abroad. You actually, I mean, you're half Japanese. You lived in Japan, right?
Right. Yeah. So I actually lived in Japan until I was 14. And my dad was in the military or in the Navy, and he retired, and we came here. So I actually didn't start martial arts until I was 18.
Wow. Is English your first language or second?
It's my first, but I started speaking Japanese when I was around 4. So it's kind of like around the same time, to be honest with you, because I lived off base in Japan.
Yeah.
So
how was that?
It was great. I mean, I loved it. You know, I mean, like me and my brother, who's 4 years older than me, we lived off base, and we had Japanese friends, even though we went to American school. And obviously, my mom's Japanese, so it was great. You know, it was. I loved it. It was awesome.
Yeah, I've been to Japan twice. I loved it. So just I can picture growing up there. I mean, obviously a way different lifestyle than what you have here, but I always freaked out. Like I was always there with Eric Paulson, and they have like beer vending machines, and we were like, oh, so it would be funny. So, but it's a great place. And I mean, I could see, like I can't see growing up there, but I can envision it just being a cool place. And you're kind of a novelty there, obviously. I mean, when I was there, they were all looking at me like, what's this white guy here for? So I don't know if that factored in with the children or if they're cool with that or.
It was interesting because me and my brother spoke Japanese, so it was both good and bad. Sometimes we'd be out, and because obviously we don't look Japanese, they assume we're just Americans, and sometimes they would be saying things, and we'd speak back in Japanese, and they're like, "Oh, you speak Japanese?" And then they kind of like start asking us questions and stuff. So it's a very polite culture and stuff, and even though sometimes maybe they weren't saying the best things before we let them know that we spoke Japanese, they kind of warmed up to us, and it was good stuff.
That's cool.
Definitely.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So what are you offering at the school? Do you have Shaolin classes, or are you just like straight the curriculum that we're doing now? You still offer the other stuff, Tai Chi and stuff like that?
So I definitely offer Tai Chi. Now for the kids program, we do a mixture of Kung Fu, Jeet Kune Do, Kali, submission wrestling, and Muay Thai. It's a blend system. So with the kids, we do teach like the Kung Fu stances and the Kung Fu elements. Otherwise, in adult classes, I don't teach Kung Fu to the adults, but we do teach Tai Chi. So that's where I kind of, it's just a growth in me, and I take elements of the Kung Fu, but I just feel I kind of evolved, and obviously Jeet Kune Do has Wing Chun, as a big influence. So I kind of blend certain things in, but I don't teach it as a separate art.
As a ranking, do you rank separately, or is it overall the school? You're this belt in the school.
Yeah, so I do a blend. So when people rank in my system, it's a mixture of Jeet Kune Do, Kali, kickboxing, and now I'm slowly getting the submission wrestling in. I'm trying to figure that out a little bit because the curriculum part of doing grappling has been a little bit challenging with the different influences I have between BJJ and CSW and Shudo and stuff. So I've been trying to figure out how to build that curriculum.
How's COVID affected that?
Well, we've been very fortunate. And when COVID hit in, what year was that? 2000.
Well, the end of 2019. Well,
2019. So actually,
2020 really.
we just left Southwest Mars Camp, which obviously you were there, and Guru Larry was there, and Professor Nikolai, and was Dan? I'm not sure if Dan Rizzuto was there that year, but right after that is when we kind of shut down. And then what we did is, as a business person, and a martial artist, I just pivoted really, right? We went right to Zoom classes. I was very fortunate that my students are very loyal, that actually did not have a lot of people leave. They kept
we got
paying.
Cliff coming on. Sorry to interrupt. Hang on. So Cliff, we knew he was going to be late, but I'm glad he jumped in. He wanted to be here for you. So, all right, keep going with it. All right.
Yeah. So, so we immediately pivoted to Zoom classes, and we did a lot of activities and stuff to kind of keep everybody engaged. We have a pretty big kids program. So when we did different contests and stuff, we actually drove things to kids, to the students of the Shaolin Juniors program, to make sure that they could participate in different contests and stuff. But overall, during the time of the pandemic, when we were locked down, we were fortunate that we were able to maintain our student body. And then when we opened back up in June, we actually moved to our new location, which you haven't seen yet, which is, I believe, about 3,800 square feet. In June, we just kind of took off. We started growing even, we lost a few students, but by the end of June, we had recovered what we lost, and we even grew some.
Wild, a lot of schools closed, and those who stayed open got bigger. A lot of people I know expanded, or they just renovated. I guess it's a lot of time off, so everybody, well, this is the time to do it. And they, I guess it might be the lemonade out of that lemon you were dealt. I don't know.
Yeah.
Hey, Victor, how you doing?
Good. How you doing?
Good. No, I know it was tough in Washington, man. I know. And some friends of mine said, oh, you got out at the right time when you sold your school and moved on. But it was tough up there, man. Governor kept shutting down and shutting down. So those guys really, of a lot of my friends, Washington State was one of the toughest places to make it. So props for you for growing and continuing to getting it going, man.
Was it hard for students to come back? Were they reluctant?
Some of them. I mean, with the Shaolin Juniors, what we did is when we opened back up, we still continued the Zoom classes. With the adults, I think at that time we eliminated Zoom classes, and then we kind of obviously we had masks and sanitation and temperature checks, and we made sure for the kids classes that the parents had to wait outside, and so we had a lot of restrictions and rules and regulations put in, but for the most part, it was people are pretty good about coming back and not being too afraid.
Yeah, at the start of the pandemic, I remember Diane and I, we had to go to the market, get food. And some woman he had to be like a 6-year-old boy, but he was running crazy through the whole market. And for some reason, he was targeting me. And Diana was laughing because I was running like I was going to get killed. I'm like, I don't know what to expect. Keep him away from me. And you think about it, little kids, they touch everything. They could be really, so I guess you really have to make sure they're cleaned up when they come into your place. But it was funny because she's like, I've seen you fight in the ring. I've never seen you that scared. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to get something, because we just didn't know at the start, you know, we didn't know how bad it was. And I guess, you know, when they say you could come back, you know, that I guess they have a little bit of a handle on it. You feel a bit better. And just, I think you did it smart, you know, the temperature checks and sanitize. Did you ever have anybody a little bit of a temperature? Hey, go home.
We had one Shaolin Junior who was coughing a lot, so we kind of had to talk to the parent, like, hey, maybe he should go home.
Yeah.
But it turns out we also had, at the time, we had like fires going on, so it was like the ash and stuff is, you know, but they understood.
Yeah.
But
You know,
we didn't make a
Victor-
big deal out of it. Obviously, we don't want them to to feel uncomfortable and stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah, we've had a
But
few
you're right.
conversations.
You're right, Ron. They're little petri dishes, because after I used to get sick all the time at my school. I mean, every flu, colds, nonstop, all the time, right? And after I left, and I very seldom would get sick. I mean, I was like, I remember the first year when I was working in school, I go, I never got sick this whole year, because it was always me going to see my doctor. And he goes, you know the routine. We're gonna give you some Vicodin. We're gonna because your chest needs to be in control. You got this cough. It's this whole every year, like 3-4 times. And after I got out of my school, I don't have to deal with it. So yeah, little petri dishes. I love them, but man, that's why I got sick all the time.
Yeah. Do you like teaching kids over adults?
I like teaching when they behave. Kids are fun because you can mold them, but
Yeah.
there are challenges depending on the age of the child, right? So I go back and forth. It depends on the individual, to be honest with you. I don't teach as
Balls
many
of
kids
energy.
now.
Yeah. So they're little balls of energy. You got to keep them doing something. So,
Yeah.
yeah. I've seen some teachers and you know, I'll see a child start to cry and we're like, okay, you want to man up and are we going to do this? You can do it. Or do you want, you know, how do you want it? It was almost military the way he treated the kid. And I was like, ooh, that's a bit rough. And I went, well, no, the kid responded in a really great way. He didn't do it maliciously. I mean, are you that type guy? Are you?
It depends on the child, to be honest with you. Like, you know, some of them I'm harder on because I know they can handle it, and others you kind of, you know, I was in sales for a long time, and you know, you sell to every person differently depending on, you know, what they're in for and stuff. And I look at that with teaching, right? Everybody has a different learning style, and each kid has a different story. And a lot of times in martial arts, especially these days, when a parent brings their child in, it's because maybe you have a learning disorder, or maybe they're just, you know, maybe they're a bully, or, you know, maybe they're shy. So it's like, depending on what I know about that child and our relationship, I do a little differently.
Yeah. Yeah. You belt them, right?
Yes.
You have a belt system. Okay. What do you do? Like a kid goes away for a month or two, he comes back and his friends a belt a head or two. Do you have any kind of procedure? Because some kids will get bummed. I've seen it to where they're like, I don't want to do it anymore because they feel like they're so behind now.
Honestly, you know, I never dealt with that exact situation, maybe because the kid's not vocal about it, because I'm talking to the parents. So, you know, I haven't had an issue. I mean, obviously I had kids that were like during the pandemic, we had this I think he was 11-year-old, his name is Peyton, and he joined right before the pandemic. And we usually test every 2-3 months. Well, he didn't get to test for like 6 months. And his mom was asking like, hey, when is he going to get promoted? And, you know, we had a little bit of issue with that, but that was, you know, we kind of corrected it once we came back. But, yeah, I don't really, you know, we have to test. We have a makeup test. And if they don't sign up for the makeup test before the actual test arrives, then they wait the next cycle, which is only about 2.5 months, every 2.5 months. So,
yeah. And so COVID didn't really hit you. It hit everybody, but it didn't nuke you, obviously.
no, it's crazy because every time we're locked down twice. I think you guys were the same way in California. We locked down in March until like June 3rd, and then we locked down again in the very end of October until like either mid-January or February. But every time we opened back up, we just had an influx of new students. So I actually, you know, I was very fortunate to where like, you know, I think before the original lockdown, we had around 140 students. Then after the second lockdown until now, which has only been since like February till pretty much August.
Yeah.
Now I'm up to 300 students. So
Oh, good on you.
Yeah, it's been pretty crazy.
Yeah. So wow. And let me ask you a question. Do you think it's we're past the pandemic? I got to get this kid doing something. I got to do something. employing new technique to get people in, like business strategy, combination of all? What are you doing? How do you have that?
Combination. I think it's a combination because I have a mastermind group that I'm part of that obviously helps me with my my advertising and sales and all that stuff. But I think a lot of people were eager to do something. They got to a point where I think we're all scared in the beginning, right? When the pandemic first locked us down, we were all extra careful, and I think everybody had a fear. And then we kind of got comfortable, and then we got to a point where I think a lot of us were like, you're getting tired of it. Like, we got to live our lives, and
Sure.
And especially us martial artists or entrepreneurs, I think, at least I felt like, my desire to live kind of outweighed my fear of something happening to me, even though I was still intelligent about it all. And I think a lot of people started to become that way, and a lot of parents, because there's no school activities, they were bringing their kids in because like there was schools on Zoom or Google Chat, and then like they needed to get their kids to do something. And I think they're getting burnt out at home.
Yeah, no, I'm sure you're right. And it's cool that there's that resource for a parent. As many of you know, as I have an autistic son. He's older, but he's in the house with us during the pandemic, almost 24 hours, and he's stir crazy, and it's like, and he's high energy, so I've got to find stuff to do with him, so it's a bit tough on families, and it's cool that you can have that, or they could have that resource, and you did it in a safe, responsible way. So it's badass. So, yeah.
Hey.
Yeah. So, all right. So you got the school, it's up and running. What's next?
What's next? So right now, I've been trying to focus on becoming more present online. As far as obviously everybody with COVID, we realize that if you have a brick and mortar business, you're vulnerable, right? Because obviously if we can't go out and travel, you don't have any clients, you don't have any students. So I've been focusing on a little bit more on like Instagram and Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts, and then TikTok, and then I'm currently filming digital martial arts products for Kali and JKD and stuff, so that I can have an online presence. And then obviously if I want to relocate, and let's say I either sell my school or close it down, I still could function and not have to be concerned about where my income and stuff is going. So that's kind of my goal right now. Traveling a lot, obviously, as I go to a lot of seminars.
Yeah.
That's kind of my thing.
A lot of people think you're in your black belt, you're done, and it's an ongoing thing. I look at it like I hate to say, I'm not going to compare myself. Well, I guess I am going to compare myself to a doctor. A doctor learns, medicine, but do you think he stops there? There's new stuff coming in. There's a new way of looking at things, and martial art has it. I mean, you could always find something different. And I think that's what stopped me from being bored with it, early on is, I started getting it. And I remember I had a girlfriend back then, this was way back in Chicago days. And when I first got my instructorship with Guru Dan, she goes, "It's going to slow down now, right?" And I was like, "Oh no, it's just taken off." And I actually think that ended the relationship. She was like, "I'm done with this." Cause I was every weekend cutting out somewhere, go be with him or some other influence, that I could find in martial arts. And I think it nuked that relationship, so.
Yeah. Fortunate my wife, she's been, even
Your wife
before we're
rocks.
married.
Yeah, she's cool.
She understands, and she knows that, and it's not even like it's not that she puts up with it. She encourages it. When I start thinking about going to a certain seminar and I know I've been gone a lot, she's like, "Go." So, but that's kind of what's built in the last 5-6 years. Really, I've been, I've been traveling, I don't know how many times a year, 12, 13, 14 times a year.
So hard, dude. I've watched you like everything just changing for you. So yeah, I'm really, really proud of everything you've done with it. It's pretty awesome. So yeah.
But the key thing too, Victor, is like I said, that the pandemic actually opened opportunities for me, because with all of a sudden Zoom becoming more accepted, I was able to reach out to a lot of my black belts that trained that after I moved, and I started, growing with that. But the thing is, now creating content is not as difficult as it was 15 or 20 years ago. I mean, I remember when I first came in to digital filming and actually bought all this equipment to make videos on my hard drive, it's like things that was outrageous. What you paid for storage and CPU, you literally can do everything on your phone now. So people could create an online academy through their phone. My friend Joel Grimes, who I studied a lot with down here, we just did a shoot in a boxing gym. Normally we'd take out his, Canon cameras and set all that up. He goes, let's just do it on the iPhone because we got great results. And it even was better than my, my pocket that I have from BGA, Ron.
Yeah.
It did better in low light. My iPhone 11 did better in his, and, just hitting it on a gimbal and like that. We shot the whole thing on behind the scenes for the start to finish on that. So there's really no excuse for martial artists now to go out and create content for their students because it's easier. It's so easy. And, it's great that you're thinking about that, because if you start creating that, then someday, like you say, you may move and you don't know why, right? Maybe your wife's just tired of Washington State like we were getting because of the rain, right? So you moved to Arizona, but you'll be able to still connect and reach out to a lot of students that way.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Cool.
Speaking of traveling, I just happen to have this one right here.
Oh, yeah.
It's there it is.
He's living live.
What were you drinking there, Victor? What's the green drink?
Mojito.
Probably a mojito.
Yeah. That was the Caribbean camp last year.
That was Caribbean, huh?
Yeah.
What's the weather like when you were down there? Is it real hot? Humidity? I'm just wondering what to look forward to when we go.
Well, honestly, it was kind of windy, but other than that, it was pretty hot. But it was windy. I almost didn't get on the ferry to get there.
That was funny, actually. He's like, bro, it's like this. What's going on?
And Larry was trying to be really positive, but Larry was like, I don't know if you're gonna make it today. And Larry's super positive. And then I get to the ferry terminal and the boat's trying to like dock like 10 times. It worked out great. That was nice. It was awesome. I loved it. It was fun.
November's a good time to go, Ron. Actually, that's what we go every year. Good time to go. You kind of get out of the monsoon season, not hitting in things, and you avoid the hurricanes, hopefully. But good time to go, because we just went in April and it was a lot more humid. We noticed it was humid when we went in April. So November's a good time to go. And it's not hot, Victor. You know why? Because I live in Arizona now. I know what hot is. If I go there, Hawaii, I go, it's cool.
I don't know. We just had a heat wave and it was like 112 degrees out here. So
Clint may go to hell and he'll go, it's cool here.
I was telling my students when they were at 1:30, I said, you know what? You guys are actually hotter than we are in Arizona today.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy there.
Yeah.
So now, and I was just in Vegas a couple of weeks ago too. So
okay. For fun or martial art?
Both. It was a mastermind business trip, but also bundled in was the Conor McGregor fight.
Oh, you were there for that?
Yeah.
Crazy, right?
It was crazy. It was, Conor is a very, he's a mega star. So when he broke his leg, however you want to see how he broke his leg, a lot of people were really upset. And I found it kind of humorous, not because he broke his leg. Obviously, that's unfortunate, but just as his attitude laying on the ground it was really unfortunate. Really, and then the crowd's very pro Conor, so it was interesting. I enjoyed it. It was fun.
Yeah. I have some close friends who run the UFC, so I've gotten to a few of them and really good seats. So it's a different experience when you're up in front of that cage versus. I've done it both ways,
Yeah, I wasn't too close this time because it was a Conor McGregor fight, but I've been pretty close, and it was a great experience. It was fun. I actually went to Conor McGregor's when he fought Dustin Poirier the very first time, like 6 years ago in Vegas. Yeah. So I seen the first one and then the third one, the one where he won, and then he became a megastar, and then this one where obviously it didn't go his way. So it was good.
The event, I love going to the fights. Sometimes the people, though, it gets a bit crazy. I've seen like. I just remember old days, like somebody bump in you and they're like, oh, excuse me, sir. And they'll bow and then they run off, and then you're there, somebody bumps and you're like, dude, what are you, and like, really, so, the testosterone level is just a bit different at an MMA event. I found
especially at a Conor McGregor fight.
Yeah.
It gets, you have to, people are very, they're very passionate and that, which is fine, but some of them are very passionate, but maybe their knowledge of the sport's not very high. They're just a fan of a particular fighter. So, you just got to kind of walk through and just deal with it. And obviously just let it go. But it could be a little much. There's a lot of people in that T-Mobile Arena.
I always like the commentators, and I'm not talking about like the Joe Rogans and stuff, but I'm talking about the people sitting next to you.
Yeah.
And they're like, he sucks. He should just do this. And I'm like, really? Get in that ring and see if you can do that. You know, it's a different game, and everybody's, you know, that couch, you know, what do they call it?
Armchair
Armchair
martial
quarterback.
arts.
Armchair quarterback. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, you get those guys, and sometimes it's more fun listening to them than what's going on. I'll just listen to them. I'm like, wow, he really believes that, and you know,
Well,
it's just part
in
of
the
it.
Connor fight, what was interesting after he broke his leg, you know, most I would say the majority of people there were Conor McGregor fans, right? Which is fair. When after he broke his leg, they're talking about how he was winning the fight, and I was like, what fight are you guys watching?
Yeah,
You know, but
yeah.
you know, it's all perception of what you know, whatever you make it out to be. So
Sure. You know, I went to Lomachenko, watch him fight, and we didn't have amazing seats, but it's better watching on TV. It is, and I loved seeing him in person, but I thought he was losing. You know, and then when I seen it on TV the next day, those shots were coming in, and I go, oh, we got him. But you know, when you're watching from that far away, you're going, I thought he got touched. I thought he got touched. I thought he got touched. He wasn't getting touched, you know, but then watching it the next day, I was like, wow, you know, pretty interesting, pretty different thing. It'd be interesting even watching or for those fans to really be looking at the fight the next day when they seen it on a television screen. So
yeah.
Well, gentlemen, I always have to be the guy that has to say it's that time that we have to start wrapping. I was glad I got to jump on, Victor. I was in an appointment, but I got to come in and say hi.
No worries.
So
yeah, we loved having you. If you ever have anything going on, please give us, you know, update us. We could have you on to promote events and stuff like that. And make sure you get us all the proper info that you want tagged, and we'll put it on the end of this.
Okay. Awesome.
All right. It was great seeing you, brother.
All right. Good to see you. I'll see you soon.
All right,
See you,
man.
Victor.
Wakanda forever.
All right.